What is the meaning of life? Have you ever asked yourself that question? How would you finish this sentence? The meaning of life is blank. What would you say? Many of the most profound thinkers have asked this question. Many of the deepest religions and spiritualists have explored the issue of life's meaning. We all want to know what the meaning of life is. We all want to know there's something more important to live for. Why are we here? What's the point to it all? In some ways, I think this is the quintessential philosophical question, right? What is the meaning of life? Well, if you've ever asked yourself that question, then you certainly asked a very big question. Many people have tried to respond to that question by providing what I call some incomplete answers. What's an incomplete answer to that question? Well, for example, someone might say, the meaning of life is to have children, right? Or the meaning of life is a family. And certainly that's a very meaningful thing, to have children or to have a family. But to say that's the meaning of life, I think is incomplete and misses the complexities of that question. For example, what would you say to someone who can't have children or doesn't have a family? Is their life not meaningful? Well, of course it is. So how can we answer the question, what is the meaning of life? We need a more comprehensive answer to that question. We need a more fundamental response. So philosophers over the centuries have come up with different approaches, you might say different theories on life's meaning. Let me just quickly mention three, and you'll look at these in much more detail in the notes and the reading. One theory about what gives life meaning, or an answer to the question on the meaning of life, is what's called nihilism. And quite simply, a nihilist is just one who says, there is no meaning to life. Let's face it, God does not exist, and since God does not exist, there is no real point to us being here. There's no point to life whatsoever. Let's just face it, there is no meaning to life. Well, that's certainly one response. It's not a very satisfying response to the question of life's meaning, but certainly some important thinkers have taken that point of view, in particular Camus. Another response to that question, though, the meaning of life, would be a supernaturalist response. The supernaturalist is going to say something like, the meaning of life is found in religion, or it's found in God. It's God who gives life meaning. God has a plan and a purpose for every individual, and the meaning of life is found in discovering that plan or that purpose. There's some varieties here in the supernaturalist response to the question. Some are going to say a soul is necessary because a soul is something that survives the death of the body. And for something to really have meaning, for life to truly have meaning, it's going to have to endure beyond death, right? That's what ultimately gives life meaning, is enduring beyond the grave, right? So the supernaturalist response has to do with something spiritual to life, something beyond just the material naturalist explanation. So you have, on the one hand, the nihilist response. You have, on the other hand, the supernaturalist response. And then there's a third sort of theory, and that is naturalism. Naturalism says, well, it's going to deny the nihilist response, and it's going to deny the supernaturalist response to the question of life's meaning. And instead is going to say, well, yeah, God does not exist, but that does not make life pointless. That does not make life absurd or without any real meaning. Rather, we can still have a meaning. And here there are two camps, or two sort of varieties of naturalist. You have the subjectivist, and he's going to say, what gives life meaning is up to each individual. So there is a reason, there is a purpose, but it's subjective to the individual. All right, it's the individual who decides what gives life meaning. And then there's the objectivist, and it says, well, that theory is misguided or misplaced because there are just some activities and some actions that are just meaningless. What gives life meaning is objective. It's something outside of the individual. So for example, let's suppose somebody thought that the meaning of life was to count blades of grass. So every day they wake up in the morning and they start counting the blades of grass on their lawn. Well, a subjectivist would say, hey, if that's what gives their life meaning, then more power to them. That gives their life purpose. Well, go for it. That's the meaning of life for that individual. The objectivist is going to say, wait a minute. That's a very unsatisfying response to the question of life's meaning. Certainly, we should all recognize that someone who has devoted their life to counting blades of grass has missed the mark. Right? They have missed something about what is really meaningful in life. And so the objective is going to say something that gives life meaning is beyond just what we think or happen to feel is meaningful. It has to be something else. So something like religion or morality or a mission. And so this week you're going to look at these different theories, you're going to explore different metaphors for the meaning of life, and think with some of the greatest thinkers of all time about the question, what is the meaning of life? Have fun, enjoy, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.